Welcome to the Emajin Golf Podcast, Beyond the 19th. I'm your host, Raj Narayan, and today we speak with Matt Skehan from Azure Buyers Agents. Matt shares with us some great insights on the property market in general and the Melbourne market in specific. He shares with us his investment philosophy, key factors to consider, and red flags to look out for while making a property decision. Hope you enjoy. Matt, you've been a member of Emajin for a couple of years now. You've been always actively involved. I see you, I think, at nearly every Melbourne event you've been to. And look, it's been amazing to have you in the community. It's been amazing to have you as one of our platinum members, one of our sponsors. You've been sponsoring today at Commonwealth. So it's been so good to have all of your support. And I know a lot about your business, but I thought it'll be so good to have a chat with you today. And welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Raj, and great to be a part of the community. And said Melbourne turned it on today, so it was a beautiful day out there on the course.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I always say that's what I do in my business. I bring the weather. I claim that I bring the weather, but I'm a big believer in karma, and I always think that doing good things is what gets you good things back. But look, let's talk about property.
Yep.
It's a topic that's favorite in everybody's hearts. I mean, you see a lot of as an Australian family, you kind of say owning property is a dream. Also, it's probably one of the biggest assets that a family owns.
It is, Raj. I think the residential real estate market's $13 trillion and 55% of wealth's tied up in housing. So
but there you go. You're the man with all the numbers.
I like my numbers. So yeah.
Exactly. I love numbers too. But obviously, it is the biggest asset. So I thought what we'll do today is we'll unpack that a bit and give some insights to our community. All of them are business owners. All of them are family people, and in the end of the day, people want to maximize their wealth through property, and people want to make this big asset that they have actually work for them. So tell me, let's start at the beginning. I mean, obviously you look at, let's start with the residential, and then we'll move to the other markets. But owning your home is a big deal, and most often than not, I find that people get enamored by, the really nice kitchen, the really done-up house, etc. So tell us a bit more about what do you look at as an expert in this field. What do you look at when you look at a house in terms of the value and what is actually valuable? And unpack that a little bit about the aesthetics versus buying a property that probably is going to give you the best returns in the future.
No, it's a really good question, Raj. I think so. A lot of people get seduced by marketing. That's why it exists. But I take people through what we call a bias decision quadrant. So there's four factors that affect value. So so the most important one is location, because as you know, right, you can't move a property, and there's been TV shows, location.
Yeah.
So number two is land size, because again, you can't make any more land. You can obviously chop it up a bit as well. But then it comes down, number three is floor plan. So that's sort of configuration of the flow. And you've just touched on number four, which is condition. But I do find the average buyer is seduced by condition often, as number one criteria or the floor plan. So, as I said, as a professional, that's what we look for. So and there's a lot of other things as well, like drainage, the water's the root of all evil. So a lot of people don't look at all of those factors. But I think it's again getting the fundamentals right as well, because obviously you can't change poor location or C grade. And we're seeing, particularly in this market at the moment, I think clearance rates over the weekend really dumped a bit. We've got an election, we've got rates. So basically, if it isn't your asset, it's most likely going to struggle a bit more as well. So
because I obviously come from a banking background, and in the banking space, we used to always say when the markets are down, don't panic. That's a good time to buy because everything is undervalued. And if the underlying fundamentals are, the financials and fundamentals are right, eventually the market will go back up. So what goes down always has to go back up, and usually it's a good time to buy when the market is down. So tell me a bit, drawing that analogy to the property market, would you think that's fair assessment, or is it better to be cautious? What do you think is good in this kind of environment? Obviously, there's some possibility of a war, petrol prices, there's so much going on in our economy at the moment. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not an oracle. I don't have all the answers, but I think there's a lot of noise. Like I bought my own family home at the start of the pandemic, so March 2020, which in Victoria was interesting times. If it wasn't for me investing in my own business, I'd be really keen to buy myself, because like fear's irrational. Consumer sentiment, has dropped off the cliff as well. So, but property is really simple. People overcomplicate it. It's supply, it's demand, and sentiment. But sentiment drives the market the most. So right now, there's still, even with all these changes and stuff, the fundamental supply isn't going to be fixed. there's still demand. We've still got migration, aging population. So I was a physio in a past incarnation, and we've got an aging population. Who's going to pay for those people, right? Like, so we're migrants. It's Melbourne's one of the most multicultural cities in the world. So, you know, fundamentally, there's always noise. There's volatility. But, you know, I suppose the Buffetts and things, we're playing the long game. The property really should be.
Yeah.
I think everyone these days wants it yesterday, instant gratification. So, like, honestly, I don't really care about the short-term noise. I think you've got to just play. Our job is to get people to lift their eyes. And we've got clients, you know, we just bought from clients who are Sydney-based, 28, 26, young professionals, and, you know, setting them up, and they're playing the long-term game. It's all relative to where you are in your journey as well. So I think you've got to take advantage of the prevailing conditions. But like, if you're upgrading, we've got a lot of clients who are upgrading at the moment. It's a great time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously, yes, you might sell your current place for less, but you know, numbers, you know, you're better off on the upgrade. So if you're obviously downsizing, probably not great, but it's just relative to where you're at in life. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And, you know, people always, you know, obviously when it comes to the property market, there are so many price points. You know, people are looking at the entry homes, and people are looking at the, you know, upsizing or etc. What do you look at in terms of the price points? Is there a one characteristic or something that defines what would be a good investment? Because you know what I mean? Because this is a big decision in your life. You don't want to get it wrong. So I love what you said about the location and the feature of the house, etc. But tell me a little bit more about, are there, you know, any specific characteristics, or does it change when it comes to your entry-level house versus your big family home or the upgraded home, etc.? Or is it just to stay similar across all the properties?
Yeah, yes and no. Obviously, when you're buying a home, you know, it's very heart-driven. When you're buying an investment, it really should be from the head, the numbers. But I think the key thing is, like, as you said, one of the worst questions I get is, how's the market? Because it's so big. But the affordable market, you know, Southern Mill's still doing well. And last year, our average investor was about $80,000 purchase, which in Melbourne's still getting a house. So there's still markets that are moving, right? The affordable market. So I think if I'm investing 101 is, like, you know, in my local areas, builders, developers, I think they try and play sometimes to the higher end or the luxury, and that's more volatile. So I think if you're in the affordable market at the moment, there's still demand for that. You know, we missed a property in Geelong just 2 weeks ago, 20 offers. So right, you know, that was a house, you know, in an A-grade pocket of a suburb called Newcombe next to East Geelong, almost 700 square metres. That sold for just under 700,000. So contrary to the headlines and stuff, it's not 20 offers. That's and we missed out. We were the third highest offer. You know, not by much, but so there's still markets that are doing well. There's obviously other markets that are really battling. So it's just understanding that that's why people like us exist, though, for the granular, live and breathe, and with a team of 6 of us, and we're boring. We go through sales results every Monday and pick apart the data. Just like, you know, there's always one, you know, there's markets within markets, and, you know, pockets within pockets. So yeah.
Absolutely. And look, obviously, you know, Azure Buyers Agents, this is what you do.
Yep.
And I know you specialize in the residential, but also you do some investment property and commercial, etc.
Yes.
So tell me, I mean, obviously you're the expert in Melbourne. Give us your thoughts. What is doing well in Melbourne at the moment, or what is a good spot for you to invest in?
Yep.
Is, you know, commercial doing better than resi or investment properties, or what is a good space to be in when you look at Melbourne space?
Like, I think it just depends where you're at, but, like, yeah, so we focus on, you know, Melbourne, even Geelong and the periphery. So, you know, I think if I'm investing and stuff like that as well, if I'm sort of new and don't have the land tax issues or anything like that as well, like, it's those affordable areas that are growing, good infrastructure. So even now, I know areas in Sydney where the airport, like Melbourne's similar, big city.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's pockets of Geelong that are doing really well. There's pockets in the southeast near universities, hospitals. So, you know, even though Melbourne's got a lot of debt, there's been a lot of infrastructure, a lot of building, and, you know, and I think Melbourne, in a nutshell, is the education state too.
Yeah.
It used to be on the number plates, and it's a really important thing as well. So a lot of clients, you know, and that's where even I think a lot of people don't understand that, yes, interest rates are going up, but, you know, the global LVR is only 23%. So a lot of people don't have debt, you know, or have got equity. Money's coming out of Asia as well for education, schooling. So, you know, there's some other factors that insulate the market depending on where you're buying as well. So I think Victoria, it's important to really focus on schools, education. We don't have the weather of the Queensland and all that as well.
We have the golf courses.
We do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. But it's just understanding those nuances of fundamentals, and But the big opportunity in Melbourne is relative underperformance the last 5 or so years. It's been flat. It's performed a lot. Adelaide's more expensive than Melbourne, which is quite unusual.
Scary to think of, isn't it?
Yeah, no offense to Adelaide, but it's sort of a 20-minute city, right? Like it's
exactly.
But it's markets go in cycles. So
yeah, no, it's interesting because people always ask me with Emajin why we haven't gone to South Australia, and I always think the market's so tiny, and I don't even know that whether there are 10 golf courses for me to have an event for 10 months, because there's the top 4 like Royal Adelaide and Glenelg, Kooyunga and Grange. But after that, I don't know how many courses there are or how large the business community is. And to think that property there is more expensive than Melbourne is really kind of interesting in itself. And that probably shows that it's probably undervalued quite a bit.
And also with Melbourne,
there's probably an arbitrage opportunity right there.
Yeah, 100%.
There's an undervalued,
And what people don't realise too is Melbourne can really sprawl a lot. Like you can literally build all the way to Geelong, so you don't have the barriers. So like Sydney, you've got the harbour, Brisbane as well. So and that's where data gets misleading. Medians and a lot of data is just, like I can make it say whatever I want, right? Like median data is almost irrelevant these days because it's so big, and Melton's almost, so there's a lot of sort of things that sort of mislead you. So that's where you can understand the new nuances, but that's really where we earn our crust, understanding those nuances and looking beyond just the headline level. So the newspaper clickbait. So
exactly, and that's the key, isn't it? Because in the end of the day, it's really a numbers game.
100%.
Math right is so important.
Yeah, but if you're investing, it is just the numbers. What's my growth going to be? What's my yield going to be? What's the vacancy rate? What's the gentrification drivers? Like, why would I invest here? Like, what's the owner-occupied? It's all numbers. You still want to have owner-occupied appeal, but ultimately investing is a bricks and mortar bank account. It's like otherwise you put money in super or shares, and a lot of our clients are sort of spread across multiple things, and it's just a diversification sort of approach.
Yeah, but also it is property is one of the most fastest appreciating asset, in terms of investment portfolio. It's always good to have that mix.
Well, it's just leverage too, as you know, your banking days, like it's leverage, and the banks like it. We've got some of the most expensive banks in the world, don't we? CBA and a few others. So it's banking.
They like it because they can see a fat asset they can have a lean on. So it's like obviously it reduces, because when I was in banking, like we only look at 2 things, which is the probability of default and the loss given default. So the probability of default is all about you and your finances, but the loss given default is all about what they have, like the asset or the,
And that's kind
of why, I suppose that happens,
And even I was thinking, we were chatting to one of my colleagues last week, that it hasn't really seen massive defaults, even with rates. And so, like, people are proud, like, there's the Bank of Mum and Dad, which is the 5th biggest lender, saying, yes, there's been some pain, but people, housing is almost it's a rite of passage, right? So, it's a sort of underpinning of the fundamentals. So,
yeah, true. So, look, you obviously talked a little bit before about your team. How large is your team, Matt?
Yeah, so I've got a team of 6 now. So I think it's sort of humbling. Like when I started with Emajin, it was sort of really just myself, and I had a little bit of marketing, and that was it. And then obviously I've grown the team, over the last little while. So that hopefully get me out on the golf course a bit more. And it's a great way to connect. And I think that's why I love it.
Exactly. And what has it been? Has it been 2 years, 3 years?
Well, it's my third time I played Commonwealth today, so it must be
third year.
Yeah, so probably between 2.5. I remember seeing it on LinkedIn, and it was it sort of got me back in the golf. So it sort of played a lot when I was young, and then big gap, and it's just a great opportunity. As I said, you can only do so many breakfasts, so to connect over golf, like it's you've got a community.
As a golfer, absolutely,
yeah. It's just, you get time with people, you're away from the phone, and it's just, it's mundane,
it's a different type of connection, I totally agree, and of course I'm biased.
Well, you've got a business based on it, right? So
exactly. But look, you got to remember, like my business was actually banking. I was a banker, and this is just it was actually my hobby. Like golf was actually my hobby, and then I love it so much that I've made a business out of it. But I'm just lucky because I love networking as well. So it's kind of
combining your passions,
Exactly, combining passions. And at the end of the day, what's that saying? If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
No, it was the same with me, right?
Yeah,
like exactly. I said, I was a physio in a past life, and I was a property investor. I changed and uprooted my career and followed my passion to property and people. And I love what I do, right? I look forward to.
And it shows, Matt. That's why your team's growing and growing. Because if you think back, it's a very short period when you were just starting the business when you joined us. And now it's like 6 staff. Let me ask you kind of one of those management questions, because I always kind of is my biggest challenge is having every person in my team deliver the same service as what you would get if I was there at an event, or the same in terms of connection.
Yep.
So how have you done that? How have you maintained that great standard? Like obviously you're very knowledgeable about the Melbourne market, you're the expert, but having the team as well. Tell us a bit more about how you've grown the team and how you train the team. And
So the team at the moment, so we've got two VAs that are based over in the Philippines. So one's for our client side sort of delivery admin. So pretty much all our back end is really optimized and systemized. So that's been a lot of growth for me from, and my most recent hire is a marketing focused one. So obviously you've got to spread what you do. So in the team, we've got a now marketing manager, Megan, who I think keen to get her involved in the community more as well. So she helps to manage, Elise, who's come on, and then we've got two advocates. So, the two advocates started in September of last year. So both got, I suppose, different levels of experience within the industry. So, but it's just, we're just spending time with people. It's building those systems, and I think it just takes a bit of time as well, right? You've got to invest in your people, but also your systems and set them up a bit as well. So we'll catch up tomorrow. We've got a team meeting, and then often it's Tuesdays normally it's a cafe for a coffee or a lunch, and just, we've got their WhatsApp groups. It's just really investing in what we're doing, but ultimately they've got a passion for it too. So I think that's all of it really.
If you get the A players, half your problem is solved.
Correct. High for attitude, train for skill.
Exactly.
I think that's the key thing. So they're both Mitch and Em bring great experience in different roles, and it's a complementary to, because you don't become 18 and become a buyer's agent, because who would trust you with an asset? So you sort of got to have some life experience on the board and lived it as well. So,
I totally agree. I like the same. I mean, I'm high for attitude. Most of my interviews, people always say, hire slow, fire fast. And I just hire fast. I judge the person and I hire the person. I don't care too much about their skills, etc., because I feel like all of that could be trained.
100%.
And I always find that
that's culture,
the aptitude, and the motivation is a lot more important than anything else. Because even if they have so much technical knowledge, if they're not, we have many core values. There are 5 core values, and the first one is all in. They got to be all in for Emajin. If they're not all in, this is not what they want to do. They're here, they're a temporary phase in their lives. That's not who we want. We want people who are all in here. And therefore, I think like the attitude is the most important thing.
You can't ingrain it, right?
You can't ingrain it.
It
doesn't matter how much skill, technical knowledge, whatever they have. It's useless if you don't put it.
Hopefully they like golf and they're passionate about people, and I think you get that right. A lot of it follows. So
exactly. So it's good to hear we have some similarities over there. And going back to the property market as well, and obviously you're looking at properties, your team, your 2 other buyers advocates, but we're looking at properties as well. What do you guys find? Are there any red flags to look out for? Are there anything? Tell us a bit about the red flags. I always like to give people the cautionary tale of what they can be.
There's so much.
Look out for in this space.
There's so much, Raj. We've got our own podcast, Property and Coffee, a little plug there. But we had a conveyance one recently, and even starting with just getting their contract reviewed. Some people don't even get that, and ultimately, there could be caveats, there could be covenants, there could be anything on those sort of things as well. But probably the key things, for me, when I come up to a property, is where is it on the street, high side, low side, drainage. It's like I spend more time externally looking at the roof and what's the subfloor and everything like it. And to be honest, most people buy a house and they're literally in there for 10 or 15 minutes.
They look inside.
And then looking at, you said and I'm there with, you see these people, they're professionals, they're lawyers, they're smart in their own life, but then they have no idea what they're looking. They're looking at the paint, colour, but so I think you've got to know what you don't know. And so I think the average punter, there's a big DIY culture in Australia, and that gets people into trouble, right? People, think they know more than they can. It's like golf. If you bite off too much, and sometimes you've got to play the percentages. So I think property is the same thing. So whether it's a contract review, skipping a building report. So I'm not going to. Person on our street recently, they bought a house, and I found out, I was talking to my wife, they didn't have a building report, and the chimney's collapsed.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know if it's collapsed but it's some work, but
But it's obvious you should have a building and pest.
It's obvious, but not always common. Common sense is not that common, Raj. And I think when it comes to people feel pressure, and everyone's an expert, so you're fighting that a little bit as well.
People don't expect anything to happen, I suppose. Because I had one where when I first was buying my first home. I bought one in Chatswood. It was a beautiful house, loved it. It was great outlook. Anyway, you know how you pay the small deposit, and then you have 7 days. We have a 7.
Oh, you're cooling off? Yeah.
So you pay that 0.25% or something like that.
It's 0.2 here, but every day it's similar. It's 0.25, I think.
Yeah, 0.25%. And we get the pest report.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful wooden.
It's all eaten up, is it?
Entire under the thing is eaten up by termites, full of termites. So we're like, what the hell? We can't get this house. And I loved that house. And the owners at the time were like, this couple getting a divorce. They were desperate to sell this property, and they were like, oh, we'll replace they wanted to sell it very fast. Because like, oh, we'll replace the termite, we'll get it cured, we'll get it fixed and give it to you. And I thought about it for a bit, and I thought, you know what? No, I don't want this, because it's always going to be there. Something or the other this problem was going to forever be coming up. And even if you cure it and redo the wood, the whole house was a wooden house. So obviously there's...
Yeah, it's most...
It's just something that sits...
Well, it's incentive too, right? It's like often, if they want to sell it, they're only going to do, what we would normally do too, if we're going to negotiate in that regard, we'd get the money off and then fix it. Because they've got no incentive to do it properly.
Fix it, yeah.
And how do you know that hasn't, they said gone into the end plates, into the roof and the
Exactly.
floor
And that's what I thought. Even if you think you've cured it, there's a little bit, and then it all comes back again. You know how they are. It's like the cockroaches. They say it's a nuclear blast, and the cockroach still runs out. It's the termite still runs out.
Well, I really do get nervous when I go into houses that are freshly painted and stuff, because I'll shut doors and stuff, and sometimes they are so off level, but because they're covering up all the fracture lines of the plaster and stuff, and the subfloor. The average buyer doesn't know what they're looking for, right? And that's why that pig and lipstick is, But you made a good call, because, as I said, if termites can get quite bad. So yeah.
I just thought, I don't want this recurring, lingering problem. And also, I'm a bit superstitious. I thought, they're all going to get divorced, and maybe it's bad
juju.
Bad juju. I said the whole thing is bad juju, and I just walked away from.
It's probably the best thing you did, right? You don't need it.
Best thing I did, because obviously it was a sizable amount, and I thought, do I want to walk away from it? And I thought, doesn't matter. I'd rather do that than be stuck with this problem. And then the very next week, we put a deposit on another property, and we lived there for decades. It was amazing. So exactly,
I think one door closes, one door opens. And I think so many people get FOMO as well, and that's where
you get stressed.
Yeah, well, it's just because it's like mortgage marriage midgets. I say
what does that tell me?
So mortgage marriage midgets, we're the 3Ms, and there's the 3Ds: death, divorce, debt. They drive real estate, right? So as you said, that was a divorce there.
What is a midget mortgage?
Kids.
Oh, kids.
It's just an abbreviation. But what I'm saying, so these stressful life events often drive real estate transactions. So people aren't thinking clearly. So as an advisor, we're just trying to get people to lift their eyes a bit as well. So that's where I said the ex-physio and me in that trust is just listen, ask questions, be a third party, rather than, because you do get emotional, and you'll justify why you should have bought that house. But when you step out of that, and then you make a more rational choice. But a lot of people get caught up in it, and that's how auctions work, because Melbourne's a auction-centric capital. But I've seen people at auction, husband and wife, they're sort of still setting a budget, it's changing, it's really
and
bad.
People get so carried away at that auction.
I've seen many a property where, I was in one in Beaumaris where I lived last year, and there was a bidder on the phone from Sydney, a grandmother buying here, and they went well over, and they had remorse. It took an hour to sign the contract because they thought they overpaid, and they did, but it's just they were caught up in the heat of it, and that happens a lot. Agents love it, but as I said, it's an expensive mistake.
Yeah, and because the first home I actually bought, it's a good case in point. All the bathrooms, the tiles were falling out. It was terrible. Because we walk away from this termite house and we go to the next one, and it was really not well done up, but when we got the building report, it was all double break. Everything.
Yeah, the bones were good. The structure.
Just the aesthetics wasn't good, and we thought, it's a good opportunity to just do it up the way we like it.
That's perfect.
Rather than pay for somebody else's renovations.
Yeah.
We get to pay for our own renovations, and it was the best thing we did, because it's more important to get the bones right and the pretty looking house.
That's so
beautifully
true.
staged, because this one, the term.
You don't take this. You don't take
beautifully staged as well. It looked like out of a magazine. And that's why people stage houses.
There's a reason that style exists.
People get enamored by it, because they can visualize themselves sitting there eating their dinner or whatever, and that's kind of how people get really enamored by it. So it's really interesting, isn't it? So tell me about, you talked about location. Tell us a bit about Melbourne, what's happening in Melbourne at the moment versus other parts of Australia, and why Melbourne? Give us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think at the moment, like obviously in my past life when I worked at a larger firm, we're buying Australia-wide. So, I think you obviously got, presence in a number of cities.
Yeah.
So, like, why Melbourne, I suppose, right now? Like, obviously a lot of people live here, but if you don't live here, why would you invest here? It's underperformance is often the key thing right at the moment, which I know sounds a bit counterintuitive, but we've got access to some leading data, and if any of your listeners want to get access to it, we're happy to share it. It's HTAG, it's a property report, basically identifies the underperformed markets and markets that are showing contrarian signs, basically leading growth indicators, and like 70% of those are in Melbourne right now, or Victoria, because obviously there's been such bull runs in Perth, in Brisbane, and all those other areas too, right? So I even spoke to, actually I think it was a major member the other week, he's looking at Brisbane, and what he can buy in Brisbane is rubbish compared to Melbourne. So he's going to do the reverse migration, come back. He was from here originally. So,
okay.
So I think you'll see more and more of that. So, because it comes back to affordability and wages and all that as well. So, like I think Sydney's median is about 1.8, Melbourne's around $1 million. If you look at incomes relative, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So there's still a disparity as well. So, I think it just depends where people are at. A lot of our clients come out of Sydney, or they're still maybe entering the market. It's unaffordable up there, so they'll come into Melbourne for that reason, or it's the relocations. We're seeing a little bit of that reverse migration out of Queensland, because all their southerners moved up north, and it's ridiculously expensive.
Ridiculously expensive for what it is.
Yeah, and you're still like, it's ridiculous, and there's a scarcity, right? Like everyone wants to be on the Gold Coast or Melbourne's Sunshine Coast, but there's only so much land, and they don't have the same job and infrastructure network, schools as well. So I think that's the real opportunity. So it's market cycle timing. It's the last, since COVID, and it's really underperformed. So as I said, Adelaide and Perth and these areas are more expensive. I think it's the third cheapest capital, which is very unusual. Normally Melbourne and Sydney aren't too far apart, but there's probably never been a wider gap. So
why do you think that is? What's going on with?
We've had some interesting government Raj, and so I think I said before.
Is that like a post-COVID thing that's happening?
Yeah, I think supply demand, but sentiment drives the market. So sentiment's been poor and all that sort of stuff for a little while, as well as being some interesting choices. So I think that's what it is. And even with land tax changes, like I'd feel a lot of inquiries, but people don't even know what it is, but it's still the rhetoric, it's still the news cycle. So but we are seeing, in our business, the reason I'm growing as well is that we are seeing more inquiry out of other states. So particularly out of Sydney, even out of Brisbane and Perth. So because they're sort of identifying it as sort of another area to diversify if they're a multi-property investor, and again, just their money doesn't really go anywhere anymore. I myself own an investment property up in Strathbourne in Brisbane, and that's about $1 million, and it's 3-bed, 1-bath, and nothing special whatsoever. So, it just comes back to affordability.
Affordability, interesting. It's pretty good. So tell me a bit. So if the role of the buyer's agent.
Yep.
So tell me a bit about, say, if I was looking to buy a property in Melbourne and I was wanting to come and look at it, what would you be doing, or what would you be looking at, and how would you kind of give us a little bit more about the role and what you actually do and how you actually help your clients?
Yeah, so it depends if it's a home buyer investor, but as a rule, we have a 5-step process. So, basically if it's investor home, you fill out a wish list, and that's where we start. So refining the brief is important. And it's amazing how many times husband and wife, they're not always on the same page.
So true.
Like
that's why they're husband and wife.
Well, everyone's busy, Raj, So I think that's probably the biggest reason people use us is time. Like they're busy, if they're earning good income, or they've got kids, they're a taxi on the weekend, they don't have time. So refining the brief is really important. Often education, that's our phase 2 of our process, is a big one. If you don't know Melbourne too well, we've got to educate you. Like, why here? We go through all that. We should have, share screens. We've got data. We've got research reports. But we summarise it, because someone like yourself, for example, will be busy. So you don't want an encyclopedia. You need a summary. You need a synopsis, and you need to understand the why. And then when we get into part 3, it's the finding, and we've got a 2,500 agent database. So once we have a brief, we'll go out to that. 43% of what we bought recently has been off market, so not advertised on REA. REA is big down here, domains in Sydney, but we look under rocks. We're not just sort of always buying retail, so to speak. And then we get into assess. We've got all the tools of the trade, all the subscriptions, all the softwares, and all that sort of stuff. Our DD reports are extensive, just so that you buy. Most of our clients, again, are time poor. They're busy. Or that they know that they're a lawyer, they're a doctor, they're a dentist, or even a teacher, whatever. They know that they're not an expert, and they want that safe their hands. They want that trusted advisor because it's a big thing. And often, the most competitive part of the market is that affordable end at the moment. So sometimes that first step's the hardest. And then getting to the final parts of negotiation, so live and breathe it. We know agent speak, you know your ex-banker, there's sort of banking lingo, there's real estate lingo. So we're there to help, and we can often just save our fee alone just on negotiation, and as part of my friendship, but cut the BS from agents and just understand how to put a deal together. I've been doing it for a decade, and as I said, you sort of learn, how it works. You learn agents, incentive. You understand how all the mechanics work, and that's just again, it's just the way the world's going. Look at America. There's a lot of advocates on both sides. It's just easier to deal with me than you because I know what I'm doing. Like I said, I've got a vested interest in it as well. So it often helps the agent a bit as well, just because that way they can control their vendor, we control one aspect, and again, it's just that, we're ultimately trying to facilitate an outcome and best result for our clients. So.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Look, Matt, it's been so good chatting with you, learning so much about the Melbourne market, how you operate, what the role of the buyer's agent is. So Matt, we've chatted a lot. I want to ask you one last question.
Yep.
Looking at the next 12 months, obviously we have a very engaged community, business owners, executives, always looking at the property market. Looking at the next 12 months, what do you think is a good property decision? Where do you think that they should be looking at?
Yeah, so everyone's different, Raj. I think there's going to be a lot of noise with election and things coming up. You've obviously got to look at your situation, but I think if you are trying to grow your portfolio, if you're in that growth phase, I think it's a great time to buy. As I bought my own family home at the start of the pandemic, and as I said, if I was investing in my business, I'd be buying myself now. You make money when, was that Warren Buffett quote, greedy, fearful? I think that's the real time right now. But it's obviously horses for courses dependent. But if anyone wants to reach out, I'm a qualified property investment advisor. Always happy up for a chat or over golf. We can have a chat, and I think knowledge is power. But I think the key thing is you're going to have to take action because there's going to be a lot of headlines, a lot of noise. So I think that's the probably key take home, right? So there's going to be a lot happen, but that's opportunity, change, and noise is opportunity if you take action, if you focus on the fundamentals and on your situation, because not everyone's different. There's obviously a lot of rhetoric about affordability. There's boomers and there's Gen Z and everything in between. So you've got to address where you're at and what you're trying to achieve. Really, that's the key thing. So.
Fantastic, man. So good chatting with you. Thanks for
Raj.
sharing all these amazing insights. I always love to know what's happening in all the markets and property. So thank you for sharing all the insights. And I'm going to have to take you up on the offer and catch you on the golf course.
Cool. Thanks, Raj. Appreciate having me.